Welcome to Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
It is first and goal. Ball spotted just inside the 10. Algier in. Wilson faked it to him and keeps it. Zach Wilson to speed, and he dives for the end zone. Touchdown.
That's Austin Nace.
Gibbs, who is probably going to be the best pass catcher out of the three.
Now, first down, he's going to get after it again. And look at the speed and the spark and the score from Gibbs. Just what Georgia Tech needed.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out. Justin Fields. Hello, Columbus. 51 yards.
Austin, you tweeted something, bro. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Ohio State fan talking there.
Oh, shit.
That is why you come to the Devy Debate. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the time zone that won the Elite 11 quarterback competition. That means it's time for the Devy Debate. That's Matt Bruning, that's Austin Nace, and I'm Felix Sharp on an oversaturated version of tonight's show. We play a game of Campus to Canton, either or. Which player deserves the higher NCAA football game rating? And will Tom Brady upset Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs dynasty? But we start with Colin Decker, the star host of the Campus to Canton podcast, joining the Devy Debate tonight.
What if I told you there was a podcast about Campus to Canton? Hosted by two lifelong friends.
As always, I am Austin.
And this is Colin.
They bonded over their love of the Pittsburgh nightlife.
So I, in the past 6 months or so, have fallen in love with Tequila Cowboy.
What's Tequila Cowboy
And the Mighty Ducks.
and the Mighty Ducks cartoon with the hockey?
So anyways, I'm standing there waiting to use the payphone.
Yeah, he was, seriously.
And this guy who's on the phone turns around and tips his hat like this.
And who do you think that guy was?
Emilio Estevez,
The Mighty Duck Man, I swear to God, I was there.
of course you were. You were the one who yelled the Breakfast Clubber's name.
I was like, Emilio! I was like, Emilio! Emilio!
Their college football knowledge is only rivaled by their knowledge of olives.
The green olives, especially if they're stuffed with something really good, like a jalapeno or like something like that. Green olives, I just freaking love.
First of all, olives are gross. I hate olives.
And drinking way, way too much.
There will almost certainly be alcohol there.
Really cheap Long Island iced teas, which is just a recipe for disaster. We met up for dinner the one time, and you ended up coming to pick me up. You remember?
No.
Wow. And I thought I was the drunk one then.
Welcome, the host with the most, Colin, whose takes are just as hot as his favorite food.
You know, hot dogs and mac and cheese. I found I've started to like a lot more spicy things in dinner.
Mr. Decker, thank you for joining us on the Devy Debate tonight, coming over from the Campus to Canton podcast. Mr. Decker, why are you so damn good on that show? Why are you carrying Austin's dead weight?
Well, first of all, I gotta say, what an intro! I mean, I'm about ready to run through a wall right now. That intro put together there was incredible. But as far as carrying Austin on C2C, I mean, I've been carrying him for probably like the past 6-7 years as far as our friendship goes. And I mean, you heard on that intro there, he completely forgot one of our great nights out in Pittsburgh. So it's nothing I'm not used to.
Austin, do you have any response?
I'm just glad that we highlighted Colin's 8-year-old palate on the intro. That was the best part.
Hot dogs and mac and cheese.
All right, boys, we're going to jump right into it. Are we ready for the Devy debates?
Let's do it.
We sure are.
All right, let's do it. EA Sports announced just yesterday that some form of the NCAA video game series will be returning. Matt, what offensive skill position player should be rated the highest? And tell me what he should be rated.
Well, I think the game revolves around quarterbacks, so I imagine it's going to be a quarterback who comes in highly rated, and it's going to be between, I think, Rattler and Howell, who are probably considered the two of the best, at least right now, because we haven't seen much of DJU or Bryce Young. So I'm going to go Howell, though, because he is my top-rated QB right now, and I'm going to say he's going to come in at like a 97-ish.
Austin, who's going to be the highest rated offensive skill position player?
Yeah, as we talked about in the pre-show, I have never played any of these games before, so like I'm just totally guessing with everything that I'm about to say for the next 10 minutes or so. But I feel like those games always favor athleticism, so I don't know. I feel like a DJU or someone's gonna have just like whether they're the highest rated guy or not. I feel like that's gonna be like the best guy.
So we have a Devy guy who has never played NCAA college football, the video game. That feels like it's some sort of crime. Colin, please redeem your friend. Who should be the highest rated offensive skill position player?
Yeah, so I'm going to take the other side of Brunings there. I agree. It's going to be a quarterback because the game revolves around those, but I'm going to go with Rattler. I mean, he's a name that everybody knows right now. So he's not my highest rated player. I do have Howell rated ahead of Rattler. But as Rattler's, he's a Heisman favorite for next year right now. He's a quarterback on a big market team, well-known guy. So he's just going to be probably the highest rated player there just so they have a way to market that game. And it wouldn't even surprise me if he was on the cover.
Well, I'm going to give you two players, and we'll start with Spencer Rattler, but I'll give you another player, and you tell me who should be rated higher. I think I know your answers already for this one, but tell me what they should actually be rated. All right, so Austin, Spencer Rattler, or Sam Howell? And again, what should each player be rated?
I feel like Rattler has more of like the video game traits, right? Like I think he's a little more athletic than Hal, and I think he has the better arm. So I feel like those two things, like I think he gets the nod there. As to what he's rated, is anybody ever rated 99 in this game?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's a guy in college right now that I would say is as a 99 on offense. So I don't know. I don't know. Can you give a guy a 99 off of like 4 games?
Yeah, why not?
That's like such a tough one. I'll say Rattler will be like a 96.
96 for Rattler. Mr. Bruning, answer this question for me. Who should be rated higher, Rattler or Hal, and what should they be rated?
Hal, 97. Just because Austin said Rattler at 96. So,
Colin, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to take Rattler here too. I don't think anybody's a 99 worthy right now, but yeah, I'll put a Howell or a Rattler at like a 97 with Howell pretty close behind there too.
I'm in agreement with you guys. I think Spencer Rattler should be rated higher. The way he finished the season after getting benched, that guy has the arm talent, and he does fit the video game system a little bit better than Hal. I actually think that Rattler is going to be elevated into that QB1 overall in the 2022 class. So no argument there. But if we're rating Rattler at 97, then what should Tanner Mordecai be rated up? All right, we'll move on. Let's go to I'm going to give you some more players, and again, you tell me who should be rated higher and what should they be rated. Colin, we're going to go back to you with this second one. Bryce Young or DJ Uiagalelei?
So I'm going to go with DJU here. I mean, I liked Bryce Young better last year coming out, but I mean, we actually saw DJU this year. He looked good in his situation, so we know he's got a safe floor. And then he has all the traits that you're looking for in a video game quarterback. He's got that howitzer of an arm. You know, he's mobile. He's got an extremely high ceiling. So I think if you designed a video game quarterback, he's going to look a lot like DJU.
Well, Matt, I mean, Bryce Young has the wheels and the arm. Do you agree with Colin?
I do. I'm going DJU as well. I say he probably comes in as like an 88-ish, but I'm going DJU.
Yeah, I mean, DJ is like the kind of the most Cam Newton guy we've seen since Cam Newton, right? I feel like that. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. He liked one of my tweets one time where I said that, so I think he thinks that too. Yeah. So it wouldn't shock me if DJ is rated higher this year, but Young is going to be really good this year. I think he's going to absolutely blow up. So it wouldn't shock me if like DJ is higher this year, and then next year Bryce Young is like the same or higher.
Listen, this is going to be one of those things where, yeah, DJU might be rated higher, but everybody's going to gravitate towards the Bryce Young player because he's going to have, 88, 87 speed, whatever it is. I know, Austin, that you're too young for this and you didn't play the game, but when Terrell Pryor was at Ohio State, everybody wanted to play with him. Everybody wanted to play with Pat White at West Virginia. Everybody wanted to play with Ryan Perrilloux, who never amounted to anything at LSU. So I'll give you guys that DJ Uiagalelei should be rated in the 88 range as a sophomore. I'm going to put Bryce Young at 85, but I'm going to put his speed at let's say a 90. I'm going to put his speed at a 90. All right, let's go to another one. George Pickens, Matt, or David Bell. Who you got rated higher, and what should they be rated?
David Bell, easily. And I think he's going to be the highest. I should have said him earlier. I already think I said Sam Howell is going to be the highest rated player. So I'm going to say he's equal to Sam Howell at 97, but it's got to be David Bell. I mean, I've got George Pickens as like my wide receiver 4 in that class. So it's not even a conversation, in my opinion.
Austin, is he right?
I can like barely think of one thing that David Bell does better than him. So no, I think Pickens is going to be higher. I mean, I guess you said that awareness like crushes these guys though, and Pickens, it sometimes flies off the handle a little bit. But isn't this all academic anyway? Like the game doesn't come out for 3 years. None of these guys are going to be in the game, right? Is that what I heard?
It's funny. On the last version of the game, players could get suspended and have character issues. And so I think that if there's between these two, who's most likely to get suspended and you get a notification that they can't play the game, it's probably George Pickens. Colin, who are you rating higher between Pickens and David Bell? And tell me what you're rating both players.
So Pickens is going to be the type of guy that everybody wants in a video game just because he's like that big body guy. They're just going to chuck it deep to him. He's going to go up and moss some guys. But I'm with Bruning. I like Bell better. Bell's just a more complete wide receiver for me right now. So I think these are going to be the two top receivers in the game. So you're going to see them in the mid 90s, probably like 94s, 95s. I think they'll be very close, but I'm giving the edge to Bell.
I think that George Pickens has more video game traits, so I'm going to rate him 97. I'm going to give David Bell a 95, but I can see players doing all the user catching with George Pickens and him jumping over cornerbacks, a la Limas Swede back at Texas, if anybody remembers playing with Colt McCoy and Limas Swede. Let's go to some more off the main radar players with some G5 guys. Again, Colin, we'll start with you here. I want to know who should be rated higher and what they should be rated. Grayson McCall, the quarterback at Coastal Carolina, the option guy, or Carson Strong, the strong-armed, no pun intended, pocket passer at Nevada. Who should be rated higher and what should they be rated?
I think this is a pretty easy one, actually. I'm going to go with McCall here. I mean, he led his team, led a G5 team to 14 overall. So, he's got some pedigree there. But then he also brings that mobility that you like in a video game, too. Carson Strong is pretty much a pocket passer. which he does very well. He's got a good arm. He's very accurate quarterback. I like Carson Strong, but when I'm playing in a video game, give me the guy who can run around. And McCall had over 500 yards rushing this year. So, and he's a good passer on top of that as well. So he gets a little bit of both sides there. So I'm definitely taking McCall. I don't think either of these guys are going to be super highly rated. They'll probably be in the mid to low 80s. You're probably looking at like McCall, maybe like an 84, Carson Strong, 82, 81, somewhere in that range.
Austin, your non-NCAA video game playing self, who are you rating higher between McCall and Strong?
I mean, those EA games, they'll take the guy that had led the G5 program to a top 25 finish last year. I feel like even if Strong was the better player and he's probably the better NFL prospect, I just feel like that's how EA does things. So yeah, I agree with Colin, and I would say the range is probably pretty accurate. Maybe a couple points higher, and maybe like an 86 or something for McCall and like an 83 for Strong. Does that sound right? I don't know. Making this up as I go.
Bruning?
I'm just going to say Carson Strong because he's the better player. I mean, he's got a cannon. He can throw that ball anywhere on the field. I mean, McCall is really great throwing it about 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, but Carson Strong can hit you like in a dead sprint 90 yards down the field. So I think his arm strength and everything else that comes in with him, I think they're going to be very similarly rated. I wouldn't be surprised if McCall ends up being the higher guy because of what they just said, leading the team to that, beating BYU. He got obviously a lot of pub for that, but Carson Strong, give me Carson Strong. 85, I'll say.
I'm trying to think of what Bruce Gradkowski was rated at Toledo and what Dan Lefevre was rated at Central Michigan. And I just can't remember off the top of my head, but that's where I would put them. I agree with Bruning here. I think Carson Strong should be the higher rated player. He's got the better video game attributes as far as arm strength. Grayson McCall, I think, is unproven as a true NFL prospect, still running that option offense. We got to see with him if he has the NFL arm talent, but I'm going to go with Carson Strong. I'm going to rate Carson Strong at give me a 83, but I'm going to put his throw power at a 90 and his throw accuracy at a 90. I'm going to put Grayson McCall at an 80. I'm going to put his speed at an 83. I'm going to put his throw power at an 83 also. His throw accuracy at an 80. All right.
Do you think Malik Willis would be a better player than either of them in NCAA?
That's a good question because he can move. I think that he has maybe as equally a strong of arm as Strong. That's a good one. I would have to think about it a little bit more. I think he would be, if he was rated higher than them, maybe by 1 point or 2 points. So, all right, we've got just two more here on our NCAA video game. I'm going to give you Sean Tucker, we'll call him freshman phenom at Syracuse, and Ulysses Bentley, the redshirt freshman at SMU, who hit the season off against, I think it was North Texas, with almost 300 yards rushing. And then Sean Tucker obviously finished the season strong against Clemson. Colin, who are you rating the highest out of these two? Very, very different players stylistically. Sean Tucker is the bowling ball. Ulysses Bentley is the raw athlete who can also catch the ball. Sean Tucker profiles more so as a two-down player. Who are you rating the highest out of these two?
Yeah, so give me Bentley there for pretty much what you just said. Like when I look at a running back, I want a guy who can catch the ball, especially if you're playing in a video game. You want to throw a couple screen passes in here and there, and you want the guy to be able to take it to the house. So, Bentley's got that speed that he can do that. He can slide out in the screen game. He'll probably have a solid catch rating. I like Sean Tucker, but he's just not the kind of guy that you want, to be your running back. He doesn't really inspire a ton of confidence. Like you said, he's kind of a bowling ball, kind of a two-down guy. So, yeah, definitely give me Bentley.
I think you're underselling Sean Tucker's catching ability in real life, at least. I don't know what the game will capture, but I don't think he's like just a two-down guy. Personally, I don't know. But yeah, I think Bentley would be a better video game player overall. But I like Tucker more than him in real life.
What are you rating him, Austin? What are you going to rate Sean Tucker?
I don't know. You said top incoming freshmen tend to hover around like high 70s, like 78 to around there. So probably 75 maybe. somewhere in that range.
Wow. So you're going to rate him lower than an incoming freshman?
Well, you said the top guys. I don't know. I don't think anyone thinks of Sean Tucker like that. And probably Ulysses Bentley either. Like, I just don't think like the mainstream people think of those two guys as like and try to think of like a guy that might like a Jahmyr Gibbs who would have come in last year, been maybe like a 78 or something, you know?
Okay, that's fair. Bruning?
I'm actually gonna take Sean Tucker as someone who was recently playing in a online NCAA 14 online league with what was it, like updated rosters, because they still update those rosters to the now prospects. Not to say that he's the same as Mohamed Ibrahim, but Ibrahim was an absolute beast for me at Minnesota because of the way he can break tackles and run people over. He was only rated as like an 80 though, so I don't know if Tucker comes in that high, but give me that. The speed and all that doesn't matter when you've got some of those defenders running around and knocking you down because you can't break through the tackle. So I'm going to take Tucker. I say probably comes in at like a 77.
I'm going to take Tucker also. I'm going to rate him a 79, but I'm going to, his agility, his acceleration, his speed is going to be a little bit better for a smaller bowling ball type player. His break tackle rating is going to be higher for me. I like that type of player in the video game. So that player can, use the animations in the computer to break tackles, kind of cheat the game. All right. Let's do one more here. And Bruning, you don't get to answer this question, okay?
Yes, I do. I'm going first.
You don't get to answer this question.
I'm going first.
You don't get to answer this question. Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback, strong lefty southpaw quarterback at Indiana, or any starting quarterback for Ohio State. Austin, let me throw it to you first. Who should be rated higher?
Here's how we're going to do this one. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Austin.
So I think Jack Miller wins that job next year, and I think I was trying to make Matt spit his water everywhere.
Nah, that's not gonna happen. We all know Colin McCord's gonna win it, so we're good.
I think I think Stroud wins it. I mean, everyone saw my quarterback rankings that I put out today, and those were made with the assumption that Stroud wins that job. One of my big questions about Stroud last year was his speed, and then he broke off like that 60-yard touchdown run or whatever, and that kind of eliminated that concern. I think that would get factored into his rating. Low 80s, 80, 81 for CJ Stroud. That sound right? Okay.
So you're taking Stroud over Michael Penix?
Yeah, he's had season-ending injuries, 2 of them now, and he plays at Indiana. I don't think that helps his ratings at all. Like those players don't tend to get the benefit of the doubt. Like when it comes to that stuff, I feel like
you're going to make me spit my water everywhere. Colin, who are you taking, Michael Penix Jr. or whoever the starting quarterback ends up being at Ohio State? Who should be rated higher? What should they be rated?
Well, I feel like you brought me on the show just for this one here. I'm going to back you up. I'm going to take Penix. Obviously the injury concerns is the thing there. So his injury rating is going to be pretty rough. But outside of that, I mean, he's a plus athlete. Stroud is too. But I do like Penix's ability to run. I do wish Indiana would be actually use that a little bit more. But then he's got a strong NFL caliber arm. Does need to improve the accuracy overall a little bit because it did dip a little bit this year. From 68.8% last year. I think it's down to 56-ish this year through limited games because he did get hurt again. But, Stroud's unproven. So he'll end up probably being rated higher just because he's from Ohio State once he gets named the starter there, like most of us expect. So he'll probably come in around an 82, 83. And I think Penix will be rated lower. I think Penix will probably come in around an 80, but I would rate Penix higher, probably 85 to 86.
You're damn right, 85. I'm putting Michael Penix Jr. at 85. He's going to have the highest throw power or the second highest throw power to DJ Uiagalelei. His throw power is going to be in the 96-ish range. DJ is going to be in the 98-ish range. I'll put Penix Jr.'s accuracy in the 79 to 82 range, and his injury rating is going to be a zero, a straight up zero there. So for CJ Stroud, I'm going to put CJ Stroud at a 79. He hasn't done anything yet. Bruning, is CJ Stroud going to be rated 99?
No, of course not. No, I'm not that. G. Scott might be, not CJ Stroud. I do think that it's going to be. I've got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher. Michael Penix, the accuracy is huge when it comes to quarterbacks. I think he's going to be rated right around like the 78, 77. Because let's also be honest, he plays at Indiana. Like, I'm not even sure they're going to make it in the game because they don't matter. When you play at the Ohio State, you're going to get a higher rating because it's the Ohio State and everybody wants to play as the Ohio State Buckeyes. So it's going to be Kyle McCord. I think he's going to come in at like an 83, and those of you who want to create a school can throw in the Indiana Hoosiers.
All right, we'll move on from Indiana and the Hoosiers and the fact that they have the best quarterback in the Big Ten in 2021. And we are going to go into another segment here. We are going to do another game of either or, campus to Canton style. Campus to Canton, C2C is the fastest growing format in football. Austin, we've gotten some new listeners over the past few weeks, and I don't want to assume that everybody's on the same page with what C2C is. Can you give me just the brief rundown on what C2C is?
Yeah, like you said, it's growing really, really fast. And if you're not listening to my other show, Shameless Plug Time, you're really doing yourself a disservice preparing for that for next year. Our other show. Sorry,
there
Colin.
We go. There we
Sorry. Why do we bring him on? So the premise of Campus to Canton Leagues is it's super deep, Devy, like super, super, super deep to the point where you have enough, like you have a college roster and you have an NFL roster, and both of those teams accrue separate fantasy points every week. And with, so there's 2 championships in your league. And then as those guys graduate from college, they go straight to your NFL roster. So the bigger deal, like the rookie draft really isn't anything. It's mostly your incoming freshmen and kind of churning the waivers and such down on the college side of things. So it just requires a lot more attention to detail when it comes to the college side of things before guys get to the NFL. Like if you're discovering a guy during Senior Bowl or the Combine or whatever, it's too late. That guy's probably already gone, which is why I like it so much and why I think a lot of people really like it. I'm sure Colin probably feels similarly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love everybody loves Dynasty, and then you get into Devy too, and that's kind of the next step where you're, looking into some of the earlier prospects that are coming out here, some of the juniors, some of the redshirt sophomores, you're starting to look in some of those guys. And then C2C just adds another layer to it. But I just love that you actually get production out of those players. You don't just have to wait for them to get to your NFL team to get production, because a lot can happen in the 2 years there. Whereas if you're, getting some production out of those high-end guys, and then one of my favorite things too about Dynasty and football, fantasy football in general, is just unearthing some hidden gems. And it's easier to do that in a C2C league where you find the wide receiver from Arkansas State who looks really good and blows up in his bowl game, and now he's on your radar there for next year, and you can get him for free and get some easy production that way. So it just adds another layer of the game that I really love. This is the format that I've fallen in love with here.
I think the four of us agree that it is the best fantasy football format. It makes Saturdays interesting. It makes those Thursday and Wednesday night MAC games and, Mountain West Conference games. It makes those interesting. And obviously Sundays were already interesting with your dynasty leagues and redraft leagues. So if you are thinking about sticking your toe in the water with C2C, we would encourage you to just go ahead and jump in. It is the best fantasy football format. So with that in mind, I'm going to give this panel 2 players, maybe one on the NFL side, maybe one on the NCAA side, and you tell me who you would rather have rostered on your team. Because we know in C2C, hypothetically, you could trade a Kirk Cousins for Carson Strong, who we talked about earlier. You can make trades between the NFL side and the NCAA side. So you could also have both of these players on your entire roster, but I want to know who you would rather have. So you can only pick one. We're going to start with, and Austin, I'm going to throw this to you first. We're going to start with Bryce Young, that highly touted Alabama quarterback, or Joe Burrow, the record-setting LSU quarterback and the Cincinnati Bengals #1 pick. Who would you rather have in a Campus to Canton league, Bryce Young or Joe Burrow?
This is a really, really hard one. When I was looking at this list before the show, I thought this was one of the ones that stood out as almost a pick 'em because I really like Joe Burrow. I think the upside's a little limited because he has like we've talked about this on my other show. Like Joe Burrow is like the weakest arm that I would be comfortable having a starting NFL quarterback have, and it's fine. Like that's okay. But I think that limits him a little bit. I don't think Young necessarily has that problem, and the fact that you get Young's production over the next couple of years. We've seen the Bama quarterbacks be crazy productive. So I think you get a lot of production in 2 years, and then he goes to the NFL and is probably an early round draft pick. I'm a gambling guy. I'll take Bryce Young. But the thing is, I also know that I could probably trade Joe Burrow for Bryce Young plus, so I could get something on top of him.
Yeah, I'm with you there on Bryce Young over Burrow. Bryce Young's younger. He has a higher ceiling. He's got the better arm. He's more mobile than Burrow. You're going to get 2 years of we can expect to be pretty elite college production. And then he's going to jump right into the pros. I think he's a very good pro prospect. I think he's going to be a top 3, top 5 for sure, and NFL drafted quarterback. And those have a high hit rate historically there too. So, you really love everything that you're getting out of Bryce Young. With Burrow, he's shown that he can be a mid-tier kind of QB1, when he's healthy and when things are working right. He is going to miss a lot of next year too, so that does factor in a little bit. So I'm going to go with Bryce Young here, but I do like Burrow. So I am kind of with Austin as far as Burrow being a very solid quarterback and somebody I would want. But with the production you actually get on the C2C side, give me Young.
I'm going to go Burrow, and I'm probably going to end up talking out of both sides of my mouth while we do this exercise because much like Austin, I value winning the college side just as much as I do the NFL side. But while I do think Bryce Young is going to be a very good prospect and probably a very good NFL player, I've already seen that out of Joe Burrow on a really bad Bengals team. And I understand he's got the injury, but he's already proven how great he has been. With that team, he's still young. I mean, he's already walking. We see videos of him doing stuff, so I think he's going to be just fine. They've already gotten some weapons around him. I do believe that they'll draft an offensive lineman to help him some as well. So give me Joe Burrow. He's young. I'll have him on my dynasty team for a long time. And with that too being said, I know I can get probably some quarterbacks on the C2C side later that might help me as well in the NFL that I don't have to pay the high premium on for Bryce Young when I do the startup draft.
I'm going to go with Bryce Young here just because the good thing about C2C is you can take the players that you love. And Bryce Young has Russell Wilson in him and Fran Tarkenton, quite frankly, in his game, somebody who can just make crazy plays in the backfield and he can run and he doesn't get hit and he can throw the ball. I mean, I think he got in for just a little bit in the Kentucky game and it was like, this is what we've been really waiting to see. And it's just fun to have players that you love. So I'm going to go with Bryce Young because that's going to be an exciting player to roster. So Bryce Young for me. Colin, I'm going to throw this next one to you first. Chris Godwin, the Tampa Bay wide receiver who will be playing in the Super Bowl this year, or the aforementioned George Pickens. Who are you taking?
So I got to go with my guy, Chris Godwin here. Chris Godwin is a guy that Austin knows well. He's been my guy for a while. I'm a big fan of Chris Godwin, being a Penn State fan too. I watched him and I really liked what he had to offer. And then coming into the league here, started out a little slow his rookie year, but then jumps right into the year after that and puts up wide receiver 2 overall numbers last year. Wide receiver 15 overall in points per game this year, where he was, battling some injuries. Had the new quarterback there. It was a crowded wide receiver room, but still put up, high-end wide receiver 2 numbers. So I value that. At most situations, I do value the proven ability. Now, like Bruning just said, I'm going to end up talking out of both sides of my mouth here because I went Bryce Young before that. I'm going to go with Godwin here. And I do like George Pickens. He has a very high ceiling, and he could make this take look terrible in 2 years. But right now, give me Godwin.
I'm going Godwin as well. I think I've pissed off enough people on this podcast talking how much I don't like George Pickens, so I don't know why you think I'd take him over Chris Godwin, who's proven in the NFL that he can be a wide receiver one. And I do think he's going to end up on a new team this year. Someone's going to pay him a lot of money to come be their one, and I think he's going to go right back to producing again as a wide receiver one again. I mean, if we were talking, David Bell or Garrett Wilson, it'd be a different story. But George Pickens, give me Chris Godwin.
Yeah, Godwin's only he'll be 25 this year. So like he's younger than people think he is.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, he's one of the most versatile receivers in the NFL. So I think that helps him, like that shields him a little bit when if he goes to a new team this offseason, because he can play in most systems and he can play in boundary, slot, pretty much all of that. Man, I love Burks.
Correct.
Pickens, I've had this discussion so many places. Pickens plays the game angry. I just love that out of a receiver. And if I have a receiver that'll go up and he's not afraid to he wants to destroy the guy across from him. I love that about him. I love that about, Justin Blackmon, Michael Crabtree. That's the kind of Des Bryant. That's the kind of receiver I fall in love with. But give me Godwin, I think.
Bruning, throwing it back to you, David Bell or Chris Godwin?
David Bell. I'm in love with David Bell. We talked about this last podcast, or maybe it was the Draft Profile show. I fall in love easy when a cute girl bats her eyes at me. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for David Bell right now. So give me David Bell.
The funny thing is I think that you have to I would assume that George Pickens is going to be the higher draft pick, the player with a higher draft capital. It seems because of his physical tools that he's more likely to go in, the top 15-ish. And David Bell, he might be a first-round draft pick, but to me, he seems like a player who's going to be a middle of the first, end of the first round type player. So, Colin, is he right or wrong in picking David Bell over Chris Godwin?
So David Bell is my wide receiver one in the 2022 class there. So I do have him over Pickens, but I'm still taking Godwin there. Like Austin said, Godwin's only 25, extremely versatile, and we've seen him put up, high-end wide receiver numbers. And I think he can definitely get back to that. So give me the guy who's already shown he can be the wide receiver one.
All right, Austin, I'm going to go to you next. We're going to keep George Pickens in this conversation, and I'm going to give you Michael Thomas, who didn't have that great of a season this season. Obviously, Drew Brees, we expect him to be gone. So are you going to take George Pickens on the one hand or Michael Thomas?
This is another one where I think if you just understand, I think Thomas is probably objectively the more valuable player of the two. So I can probably get Pickens plus for him, and I'd rather have that side of the draw. Is that a cheating answer to say like that? Do I have to just pick one or the other straight up?
You do have to pick one or the
I have
other.
to pick one or the other.
Depends on it.
That was a cop out.
That was a cop out. Oh man, I'll say Pickens. Give me Pickens.
Oh man, and you guys roast me for my love of G. Scott Jr. Jeez, I'm going Michael Thomas. I'm a little bit worried, obviously, him losing Drew Brees, but if any of the rumors are true that Jameis Winston might be the quarterback there and he forces that ball to Michael Thomas, while 4 of them might be picked off every game, Michael Thomas is still going to get peppered with targets. Give me the dude he's still young, he's still an alpha wide receiver. Give me Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there, Bruning. Kind of the same deal before where we've seen this high-end elite production from Michael Thomas. I mean, he's 1 year removed from dropping 100 more points than the next closest wide receiver in PPR. And I think people kind of forget about that because of how injured he was this year. And then there was that little bit of a benching and some kind of issues there off the field. But yeah, Brees is gone too, but I still think Michael Thomas is a great player, and I think he can produce high-end numbers as long as he has competent QB play. Biggest question for me is Taysom Hill a competent QB? And I'm not really sure that he is. But if they do go with Winston, expect him to get peppered with targets, and I think he'll produce monster numbers again like he did last year.
Austin, I'm going to come back to you with one that's not on the show sheet, okay? Are we going to take Treylon Burks on the one hand or Jalen Reagor on the other?
Oh, I've never liked Reagor, so I'll take Treylon Burks 10 times out of 10 in that.
Okay. Do you think that you could get more than Treylon Burks for Jalen Reagor in a C2C?
That's a good question. Well, it sucks because the only league I have Reagor in, I also have Burks, so I can't even go try that. Yeah, like I think Burks just has objectively more value than Rieger does right now. I don't think Rieger looked very good this year. I think we have very big questions about who their quarterback is next year. And I think Burks is gonna feast, and he's just that next big athletic, crazy monster guy in college. I would rather have that upside.
I still like Jalen Rieger as a prospect, but Bruning, who are you taking between those two?
I'm still gonna keep Rager right now, but I do agree with Austin. I think actually you could probably trade. You'd probably have to add on to. Well, I say Rager. I'm probably saying that wrong. I think you have to add on to Rager to get Burks right now because he's that sexy name right now. I don't think with what he did this year, especially with having really nobody else there on that team helping him, I think you'd have to add to him to get Burks up. But I'd still take Rager right now. I think that offense is going to get turned around. I think he's going to be just fine next year.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
I was going to say, once again, I'm with Bruning there on that one. I think
I'm glad we brought you on, Colin. Are you busy Wednesday nights at all? I think Austin said he's got stuff going on. He might not be able to be on anymore.
I got a little opening in my schedule. I'm flexible here. But yeah, I think Burks is the hot name right now. Everybody's talking about Burks, and Rieger's coming off of a little bit of a disappointing year this year. So I think you would have to give Rieger plus to get Burks right now. So if you're going with those two, in that situation, give me Rieger. I think he's still a high-end prospect from last year. I still liked him. I still like the situation he's in Philly, where he can be like, he's the best wide receiver there, I think, on that roster. I think he's the most talented guy. So, and I'm still a believer in Wentz. So I'll take Rieger.
I am too. I think I'm also going to take Jalen Rieger. All right, let's go to the quarterback position. Zach F. Wilson on the one hand, and I don't know, he's draft eligible. These are going to be two NFL quarterbacks. So Zach F. Wilson on the one hand, or Tua Tagovailoa. Colin, who are you taking between those two?
So I'm going to end up taking Zach Wilson here. Now, Tua may very well end up grading out higher than Wilson for me as an overall prospect as a rookie, because Tua was my quarterback one last year.
Austin's shaking his hand. I mean, he's making all these kind of movements. He's just, I mean, all right. But, go ahead. I'm sorry, Colin.
No, you're good. But my biggest concern with Tua is he didn't look like the same player this year that he was pre-injury. Now that was a tough injury to come back from. So can he get back to that player? I believe he can. Yeah, for sure. But am I willing to gamble on that? I don't know. I'm also not really sure that I trust Miami to be a top fantasy passing offense, assuming he stays in Miami. So, I'm a big fan of Wilson. Landing spot unknown. Give me Wilson right now, but I think it's going to be pretty close.
I'm willing to give Tua a year to figure out his hip situation. And I'm hoping that he can, because I had Tua graded higher as a player than Zach Wilson. So I think that's a pretty easy one for me, especially because I don't know where. Like, I think Miami's going to do everything they can, assuming they keep him and they don't trade him for Deshaun Watson, to make his life as easy as possible. And I think if Zach Wilson goes in the top 8, unless somebody really good trades up, there aren't a whole lot of landing spots in that top 8 that you can say like life is going to be easy for Zach Wilson to start off. And I think Zach Wilson needs, as much as I do like him, I think he needs a little bit of making Zach Wilson's life easy early on, or else he could be in a little bit of trouble.
Oh, fuck. I'm actually going to take Zach Wilson. I'm not proud of that at all. I did not like Tua that much coming out. It's very widely known. I had Herbert above him in my process last year. And I do think Wilson has higher upside than I would say Tua does. Some of that goes to what Colin was just mentioning with Miami. I don't necessarily believe what they're doing now. Maybe if they add Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase, that'll help him a little bit, but I'm not sure what to think of Tua. Give me the guy who's, he's a little bit sexy. He's fun to watch. He's going to end up on San Francisco, and that Kyle Shanahan's really going to help him out, like Austin was just talking about. And he's going to end up balling out because I hate him.
All right, Austin, we're going to come to you. And, I'm taking Zach Wilson, but I tell you what, it does scare me how good of a quarterback prospect we thought Tua Tagovailoa was, and how mobile we thought he was, and how he could be, make plays out of structure. And we didn't see that this year. He looked like a shell of himself, and some of the improvisational tools that Tua Tagovailoa had that disappeared. Those are some of the things that Zach Wilson can do. I think Zach Wilson has a better arm, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, I'm going to go to Austin here with the next one. Let's ask some Bijan Robinson questions. You were right on Bijan, Austin. So are you going to take Bijan Robinson, the phenom Texas running back who averaged damn near 20 yards a carry in the bowl game, or DeAndre Swift?
Is it bad? I know what both of the Bijan questions are, and I actually think I'm going to take the other guy in both of them. Is that really bad?
No,
I'm surprised.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, they're not that much older than him. Swift is not that much older than him, and I think Swift is going to have a nice couple years in that Detroit offense. So I'll take him. Even though, I do really like Bijan. He's my number one C2C and Devy running back right now over Mr. Breece Hall. I know that upsets somebody in this panel, but yeah, I mean Swift looked like he belonged this year, and I think he's only going to continue to look like that over the next few years.
Well, I mean, if Austin's not going to talk up Bijan, I will. In a C2C where I'm getting points for college production, give me Bijan all day. I think he's going to be an elite fantasy producer at the running back position next year with Sark. He's going to be the focal point of that offense. And then I think he can run it back again the following year. So you're likely getting 2 high-end fantasy seasons on the college side. And that's the type of guy that can also bolster your championship caliber team on the college side. I mean, I think he's going to be, just not head and shoulders above anybody else, but it's going to be him and Breece Hall, and then a huge gap to anybody else, I think, production-wise next year. So, you're getting 2 huge years of production on the college side. And then I love his pro prospects, too. He's got a true 3-down skill set. He's got ideal size. He's a great athlete at that size, too. Shows a lot to like on film in terms of the mental side of the game. So you add all that production together, give me the younger guy. And where I'm getting points on college side too. And I did have Swift as my RB1 last year too. So, that's how highly I think of Bijan right now.
If we were talking about the real RB1 in college and Breece Hall, this might be a little bit of a tougher decision for me, but I'm going to go Swift. I think everything Austin just mentioned, he's going to, I think, eat in this new offense with having the new offensive coordinator, them wanting to dedicate more to running the ball. You're going to have Jared Goff there who loves to check down. I think Swift is amazing in the receiving game. No more Adrian Peterson there. He's still young, much like Colin. He was my running back one coming out last year. You're going to likely have him for at least 4 years there in that Detroit offense. I think he's a guy who could end up getting a second contract maybe. So give me Swift on that, because I also think you don't have to pay as much for him on your NFL side as you do the next running back we're going to talk about.
Well, I just want to do this really quick because I don't want to stay on Bijan, Colin, we'll go through everybody just really quick. Jonathan Taylor or Bijan Robinson?
With Swift being my RB1 last year, I still have him ahead of Taylor right now because I'm with Matt. I think, and Austin, I think DeAndre Swift is going to put up some really nice numbers in that offense next year. For all the reasons that Matt laid out there. But I think Bijan's going to have equally or better production on the college side for 2 years and then be just as good of a producer on the pro side after that too. So I'm going to take Bijan again.
Bruning?
I will actually take Bijan here because I don't trust Frank Reich. I think he's going to continue to do what he did last year with Jonathan Taylor. Even though I love Taylor, I think he's phenomenal. I think getting that production like Austin was just talking about for 2 years with Bijan, I think he'll be a comparable prospect to Taylor when he comes into the NFL. So give me Bijan over Taylor.
Really quick, Austin, Taylor or Bijan?
Taylor, but tiny bit.
All right. Let's do these a little bit quicker, folks. We do want to talk about the Super Bowl before we get out of here. Let's see. Let's see what we're going to do here. How about Eric Gilbert, Colin, or Travis Kelce?
So I'm going to go with Kelce for this one. Kelce's basically a wide receiver at the tight end position right now, which just gives you a massive advantage when you're trying to win a title. And he's the cornerstone of that type of a team. I mean, I've seen stats out there, and I don't have any off the top of my head, but I know he was on most championship teams this year just because he's such a mismatch there. And I love Eric Gilbert too. I mean, he's the top-rated tight end prospect of all time. He's a top athlete. He's a mismatch nightmare at tight end. You know, he's going to be going to Florida, where he kind of fills into that Kyle Pitts role, you think, a little bit. But, you know, with how elite Kelsey is as a fantasy producer, I'm still going to take Kelsey for those couple years over Gilbert, who is going to probably do it for a little bit longer, but may not do it at that level that Kelsey's doing it at.
All right, let's keep these tight here. I'm going to throw one to you, Austin. Carson Strong or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Strong. Not sure how much longer Jimmy G's in the league, to be honest. So,
Bruning, Zach Wilson or Kirk Cousins?
Captain Clutch Kirk, baby. No, I'll take Zach.
Thank you for that. Okay. Colin, going back to you. Kayshon Boutte, the phenom freshman from LSU, or Marcus Hollywood Brown?
Give me Boutte. I mean, I think we know what Hollywood is at this point, and that's pretty much just a boomer bust wide receiver 3. It's pretty limited on that offense too. And Boutte showed the ability to be a feature wide receiver. So I think he's going to put up big numbers in college, and I like his pro prospects too. So
since he's your number one, Bruning, Breece Hall or Antonio Gibson, and give me your answer really quick, and Austin, give me your answer really quick.
Breece Hall. I think he's going to be – I like what Antonio Gibson did this year, but Breece Hall all day. I think he can do everything that Antonio Gibson did, but a little bit better when he gets the NFL, and you get the college production side of it this year.
Close one. Give me Gibson. I see a meteoric rise in his future.
Colin, Zeke Elliott or Isaiah Spiller?
Give me Isaiah Spiller. I'm not convinced that Spiller's going to put up dominant production on the college side next year, because they have a pretty crowded backfield there with the way A-Chains look. They got a nice Smith. But I think Zeke only has like 1, maybe 2 years left of top end production before he hits that wall. So give me the younger guy in Spiller.
Well, let me give you a younger guy then. Isaiah Spiller or J.K. Dobbins?
No, read it correctly. You put KY.
Yeah, I'll take Dobbins in this one though. Dobbins was the better prospect for me at this point, and he's in an offense that's going to run the ball at a high rate, and he's looking like he could be the focal point of that running attack next year. So I'm gonna take Dobbins.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was a nickname that I had missed on Dobbins.
He moves up the defenses right before he takes care
real
of him.
Smooth runner, man.
Exactly. He just hits.
All right, let's. I'm going to do one more for everybody. Bruning, Kyle Pitts or TJ Hawkinson?
Before I answer this, we'll do the rest of these on the after show, guys. So stay tuned on YouTube. But give me, man, I have to go Kyle Pitts. I said he's going to break the rookie tight end record, and he's going to be phenomenal after that. So give me Pitts.
Austin, David Bell, or Juju Smith-Schuster? I think this one is easy.
Oh, I love Juju. And Juju's still like 20 years old
serious?
or whatever. Like, yes, Juju.
I put that on there so we can roast him, and we're gonna have to do it on the after show.
I like David Bell. I don't see anything elite that he does aside from body control, where he is absolutely elite.
What does Juju do besides TikTok dances?
Yak monster, man. Yak monster.
We are going to have to flesh that out on the after show. I'm going to give the last one here to you before we go into the Super Bowl. Colin, Garrett Wilson or DJ Moore? I think this one is easy.
Actually, I do have a hard time with this one. I like Wilson as a pro prospect, but I don't know how much he's going to produce next year with that crowded wide receiver room. And I think that if they get everybody back healthy this year, I'm going to take DJ Moore on the pro side. Because DJ Moore is still really young too. I think he's 23. So yeah, give me DJ Moore.
That's going to be our Campus to Canton either or segment. Hey, we need you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Go to our Twitter page. All of these selections, these choices are on our Twitter page right now at Devy Debate on Twitter. Go ahead and pick who you choose between the two, and let us know. Let us know what you think. Let's go to the Super Bowl. We got Kansas City playing an away game at Tampa Bay. Bruning, I'm going to start with you here. Who is going to win and why? And give us your score prediction.
I've been agonizing about this all week because while I respect Tom Brady, I hate Tom Brady, so I don't want the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win it. But at the same time, fuck the Chiefs for beating the Browns. So I'm going to go ahead and say Tom Brady's already been the best thing to ever happen to NFL football, so why not just give him one more ring, one for the toe there. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning 34-31.
Interesting. I'm going to take the Chiefs here on this one. I think they're just too tough to beat there with a healthy Mahomes. Everything indicates that he's going to be back up to full strength there. So I'm going to take the high-powered Chiefs offense, but I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game there as well. So something in the mid-30s. Give me Chiefs 37, Tampa Bay 30.
I thought Felix was going.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, because you put out your Devy Debate Daily the other day about it, and I think yes, the Chiefs are missing some offensive linemen, but I think it would be a bigger deal if they had lost them in like the first quarter of the game, because they have 2 weeks to prepare for not having them, and I think they're going to be really creative. I think they're going to move the pocket a lot. They're going to move Mahomes a lot. They're going to get the ball early out of his hands quickly, and then I think later in the game they're going to try to hit some of that deep stuff and let that develop a little bit more once they've kind of demoralized a little bit of that Tampa Bay rush. And to be honest, I could see this going like the Bills, like almost exactly like the Bills game did, where the Bills kind of came out and played them kind of tough for like the first quarter, and you were like, oh man, if the Chiefs don't start scoring here, they're in some trouble. And then they just started scoring, and it was over before you could blink your eyes. I foresee something similar. I think it's a little lower scoring than I think you guys do. I'm going to say like 31 to 21 or something like that, like somewhere in that range.
I'm going to take Tampa Bay. I'm going to take Tampa Bay. I think the key to the game is going to be whether or not Travis Kelce has to help to block, and then that makes it easier to guard Tyreek Hill. I think that Tampa Bay defensive line is going to be a problem for this makeshift Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. I said that I thought I saw a lower scoring game. I'm going to take the same score, which was in week 7, I believe it was, of the season. I'm going to go 27-24 Tampa Bay. Do we have one question before we close out? Tank Bigsby or Jahmyr Gibbs from 7D Gwynn. Austin, let me throw that to you first. Tank Bigsby or Jahmyr Gibbs?
I'm a huge Gibbs guy. I can appreciate what Bigsby does, but I think he's just not he's not the well-rounded guy that Gibbs is. I would take Gibbs, and I have them both they both have running back 1 potential in the NFL. I just have Gibbs a little bit higher.
Colin, is he right?
I think he's right, whether they both have RB1 potential at the next level, but I'm going to take Bigsby here because I think Bigsby's going to put up some really nice numbers in that Auburn offense next year. Whereas I don't trust Georgia Tech's offense quite as much. So C2C, definitely give me Bigsby. Devy, it's a lot closer. I'm probably in Devy would lean Gibbs, actually.
Bruning?
I'm gonna take Gibbs. I just think he's slightly the better player over Tank Bigsby. So even though he may not put up the numbers, I think once he gets to the NFL, what he can do in the passing game and everything, I think is going to kind of elevate him a little bit. So give me Gibbs.
I'm going to take Gibbs also because not only what he can do in the passing game, but what he can do in the vertical passing game as a running back. I find that very attractive. Hey, that's going to be our show for tonight. You can find our written content absolutely nowhere for the time being. You can email the show at devydebate@gmail.com. Follow the show at Devy Debate. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace and Colin Decker, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. All right. Oh, look, there's Jarek. Hey, good job, man. You ready to?
Yeah.
So I guess let me drink some water and then we'll tee up the next show.
I appreciate the Lions wardrobe. I liked it the other night when you were on Kevin's show, but you had the hat on too.
Got the hat. I can go get it. I mean, it's somewhere around here.
I left the comment and then my thing cut out, so I don't know if he posted or not. But I was like, "Hey, Felix, you going skiing?"
Oh no, I didn't see it. I didn't see it because I would have said something to you on the show, but I didn't see it. Yeah, I got I was like, I'm going on this show, but do I have? I was like, yeah, I got Lions stuff all over here. So it takes some getting used to. when you live, like when I lived in Michigan my whole life, and then I come here and you go into Meijer and you see UK and U of L shirts. I'm like, what? Why are these UK and U of L shirts in Meijer? And you don't. It's like, oh, because I live in Kentucky now, so that's why. And it takes some getting used to.
I grew up in South Central PAs, which is like Eagles, Ravens for the most part, and then all Penn State. And I hate every single one of those teams so much. So like I have family here in Pittsburgh, and then when I moved out here, but like we'd come out to visit my grandparents, and like you go into a store here, and literally like on the weekends, everybody's wearing a Steelers jersey. Like there's like a 95-year-old lady with a walker, and she's got like a Juju jersey on, and she's like shuffling down the aisle. And I just thought that was the coolest shit. So I'm so happy to be in a place now where everybody's a Pitt fan and a Steelers fan and a Pens fan, and it's a good life.
All right, let me think about how I'm going to tee up the next show. All right, we're going to keep Colin for a Devy Debate extra segment. We had some things that we wanted to talk to Colin about, but they didn't really fit in our show sheet for tonight. So we're just going to do a part 2, a less formal version of the Devy Debate. And I wanted to get Colin's opinion on some things. Colin, we've had a couple of segments for a couple of shows where we talk about potential 2021 breakouts. I want to know from your perspective, who are some collegiate players that you could see breaking out next season, coming out of nowhere potentially?
So, I mean, I think the obvious, well, not out of nowhere, but the obvious answer for a breakout is Bryce Young. So we're just going to skip that one. But one of my favorite guys from last year, and he's a guy who's kind of fallen under the radar right now, but that's Jalen McMillan. Now, he was a 4-star guy. He was a number 11 wide receiver. So, he's not coming out of nowhere, so to speak, but he really didn't do anything this year. He had 1 catch for 16 yards. He had 2 carries for 14 yards this year. And he only played 4 games, or he played in 3 games. Washington played in 4 total. So he is going to redshirt this year, which is nice to see. But he didn't really do anything this year. But I love Jalen McMillan's skill set. I think he's such a smooth route runner. Very great release off of the line too. Good footwork. He was really technically refined, I thought, coming out of high school. And then he has good athleticism as well too. He's got speed, and it's backed up by a 10.6.700 meter time, which I think Boz is the one who had that formula to convert that into a 40 time. So I'm not sure what that is, but I know it's good. I initially comped him to Jerry Jeudy, but I don't know if he's quite as good with the ball in his hand as Jeudy. So I kind of tweaked it a little bit more. I think he's more along the lines of like a Keenan Allen, but a little more athletic.
Jalen McMillan, for the audience, Jalen McMillan is a wide receiver out of the Washington Huskies. Colin said that, but I just want to make Washington Huskies redshirt freshman. He's given the Pac-12 some love there, so you're going to have to stay up for the games that start at 10 p.m. In Eastern time, which is the only time zone that matters. But Jalen McMillan, Colin giving you a reason to stay up late at night. Go ahead, Colin. You got anybody else, or did you want to say something else about McMillan?
Oh, my last thing about McMillan was I just think he matches up really well with what Heward's going to do in that passing game. So I think with him coming in, I think that's really going to unlock him. Now, I don't know if he's necessarily going to, put up huge numbers in college just because it's Washington's offense, but I think you're going to see a breakout performance for him.
And again, we got new listeners. Sam Heward, Austin, who is that? And what are your thoughts about Sam Heward?
Yeah, Heward is, if the name sounds familiar, he is related to the Hewards that have played in the NFL in the past, Brock and I forget who the other one is, but the family, there are genes there for the NFL. So I think that
played for the Chiefs. Brock Heward was a former Chiefs quarterback. Mm-hmm.
So there are, the genes are there. There are people that he probably got a little bit of help in his recruiting because of that, but he is legitimately a very good NFL prospect, in my opinion. He's going to Washington next year. I don't think much of the quarterback situation there right now, so it would not shock me if he comes in there next year and takes that starting job. Very traditional pocket passer, which does scare you a little bit because we talk all the time on the show how those kind of quarterbacks are going by the wayside a little bit. They're kind of a thing of the past, but he is very much in that Matt Ryan, Jared Goff, range of players. But I think at the minimum, he's going to do very, very well in college, and he's going to be the best quarterback Washington's had in quite some time. And they've had some good college quarterbacks, but I think he's the best in terms of pro prospects, and he'll put up some nice numbers there.
And Heward is your number one quarterback for the incoming freshman, the 2021 class. Is that right?
Yes, he is just barely my quarterback one. He would rank so much higher if he just was a little bit more mobile. But he's not a statue. But like a lot of the other top guys in this year's class, like Caleb Williams and Tyler Buchner and some of those other guys, like they're very much that Konami code running back. I wish he was just a little more, and hopefully he can pick up something in college in that regard.
Give your top three just so the audience has some freshmen to watch either this spring or in the fall coming in the upcoming fall.
My top three freshman quarterbacks?
Yes, your top three freshman quarterbacks.
So I have Heward number one, as I just said, and then I have Tyler Buchner number two, who's going to Notre Dame. I'm not exactly sure if he's going to start or not because I know Kelly doesn't particularly like to start freshmen at most positions.
And you got Zach Cohn going there.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Cohn's going to go in there to the chagrin of most, Devy C2C people and Notre Dame fans and start. And then I have Kyle McCord number three. Like I like Kyle McCord a lot. I had CJ Stroud number three last year, and I think him being there for a year and I don't think he threw a single pass this past year, but he at least got in some games, had that long touchdown. So I don't know if I see McCord playing next year or not, but those are my top three guys. And then I have the thing about a lot of the top guys in this class is then I have Jalen Milroe, who's going to Bama. He's going to sit behind Bryce Young. So it's the 1 year waiver thing is going to add some intrigue, I think, to some of these battles in the next year or two. We really don't understand how that's going to play out yet.
Colin, any other 2021 potential breakouts?
I do like Trey Bradford for LSU. I think that's a pretty kind of a muddled situation right now. They have a couple guys in there like Emory Jr., TDP, Tyrion Davis-Price. And then they're bringing in Corey Kiner this year, and they're bringing in Goodwin too. So they have a lot of guys there. But I like Trey Bradford a lot. He's got very good long speed. He's a home run threat to hit every time he touches the ball. He's a good one-cut runner too. And he's got great acceleration. So he gets the top speed quickly, puts his foot in the ground, sees the hole, and just bursts through it. And he's got good footwork too behind the line. And he looked good with his vision too. He could stand to improve that a little bit there, but the biggest concern with him, obviously, is the arrest in December for allegedly shoplifting from a Walmart. But LSU kind of sweeps that stuff under the rug, so I don't think that's going to hurt him too much. So I think he's going to emerge out of that backfield this year.
I want to get Mr. Bruning into this conversation, and obviously we're going to talk Ohio State. It has been a reoccurring topic on this show. What's going to happen with this Ohio State loaded depth chart? Of course, you got Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jamison Williams. That's a loaded wide receiver core already, and we haven't mentioned any of the incoming 2020 freshmen of Julian Fleming, G. Scott, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then in 2021, you're going to add Marvin Harrison, signing the number one wide receiver in Emeka Ibuka. Do you see all of these receivers being able to make the jump from Ohio State to the NFL, or do you see one or two of them transferring the way Mookie Cooper did?
Who are you asking, me or Colin?
I'm asking Colin, and then
okay.
We'll throw. I know your answer.
Okay, so yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. That's just such a crowded room that they can't possibly keep all of these guys. I like Garrett Wilson a lot. He's my favorite of the group right now. I was a huge fan of JSN coming out. He was my wide receiver 2 last year, so I was a big fan of him. You got Olave. He was my wide receiver 8. G. Scott looks really good too. I'm a big fan of Ibuka. He's my wide receiver 1 this year. So it's just too crowded. And if you notice, the guy I didn't mention there was Julian Fleming. So he's actually the guy I think that needs to head out. I think he is the one who needs to transfer there. Now, I was pretty low on Fleming last year compared to most. I did have him as my wide receiver 6. So I thought he projected very well as a good wide receiver, but I was pretty concerned with the level of competition he was playing against and the development that I thought he would need. So I'm from the same area where he went.
And I was going to say, we should say that you're from Pennsylvania and Julian Fleming came out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So you know that high school area well.
Yeah, well, he's actually from the same district. So District 4, it's the area I'm from too. He was a single A school, so the smallest one. And if you watch his highlight tapes too, you'll see what I mean. He's just a far superior athlete to everybody else on the field. So I was a little worried about how he would translate technically right away. Now, obviously, he tore up the camp circuit, so in recruiting, so you feel pretty good about his ability to project. But I thought it was going to take some time. So unfortunately, with how deep this wide receiver room is, if you don't stand out early, you can get buried. So I think since he didn't stand out right away, he should take his year of development that he had under Brian Hartline and go somewhere where he could play right away, somewhere that can use his talent and really make him a focal point. Maybe Miami, Texas, Florida State, somewhere like that, where they're kind of lacking in the wide receiver department. And I think that would just be the best move for him for a pro prospect move.
Bruning, how can we expect Julian Fleming to be the one to transfer when he was one of the two freshmen who actually got snaps this year and over G. Scott? So, Colin, you see G. Scott staying there and eventually becoming a starter there at Ohio State.
Well, I think the thing that G. Scott offers is he offers something that one of the other guys don't, and he's a little bit bigger than those other guys there. So I think
look at Bruning just glowing over here.
You're right. That's all.
I mean, he offers that alpha prototypical wide receiver size. So I think he offers something there with that none of the other guys really do. Where Julian Fleming has good size, but he's a little bit more versatile with that. So I think G. Scott can stick around and carve out a really nice role there on that offense.
Bernie, if you got it. Sean McVay gift that Bruning is playing.
Let's go. No, I mean, I agree with him. You already know that. Look, and it's not anything against Julian Fleming. I do think Chris Olave coming back hurt him more than anybody else. We talked about it. If Olave would have left, I do think Fleming would have likely stepped up into that role. That's what I've said from the beginning. I agree with and I know we're going to differ on our opinion, Felix, on Jamison Williams. I just don't think he's that talented of a wide receiver. I think G. Scott can beat him out this year and be starting in his role. And then it's going to come down to, obviously, you're going to have Garrett Wilson and Olave are going to be the top two. And when they move Wilson into the slot, which I think they're going to do a lot still with Olave coming back, that means that you're going to have Wilson in the slot. So I think that's where G. Scott comes in, is going to be starting at times opposite of Olave. And then when they put Wilson back outside, that's when you see JSN sliding, because he's by far, I think, their best slot receiver on the roster. But for whatever reason, they want to put Wilson into the slot receiver role. I am, in all honesty, not worried about Harrison, Ballard, or Abuka this year. I don't think they're going to get that much playing time, and I think they know that. I don't think they committed to Ohio State saying, I'm going to play my freshman year. They know, they've seen how loaded that room is. I think they know, hey, I might come in here. Maybe I'll get a little bit of time. Maybe if I'm really good in camp, I'm going to get myself a role in the rotation, but I do think something I've talked about a lot on here is going to go back to what we see, assuming we get a normal college season next year. They're going to go back to that rotation where they do that, like I've said before, the hockey line changes of the wide receiver group, where you're going to have, say it's just, even if it is Williams wins that job, if it's Wilson, Jamison Williams, and Olave out there, there's going to be times where they're there, and then they're going to complete line switch, and you're going to see those three freshmen from last year come out there, and it's going to be JSN, G. Scott Jr., and Julian Fleming. And the biggest thing I think for me is going to be the quarterback, whoever wins that job, and how much they really affect all those wide receivers, because I think from everything, I know they didn't get a lot of practice time with the ones. So how much does Julian Fleming and JSN and G. Scott have a rapport already with the CJ Stroud, or if Jack Miller ends up winning it, because those were the guys that were practicing together, because when they were practicing with all the COVID stuff, it was Justin Fields was off doing his own thing with the starters. So those guys have already gotten in some kind of rapport with those guys like Stroud, assuming Stroud ends up winning the job. So I don't think, I honestly don't even think Fleming transfers, if I'm being honest. I think with Olave gone next year, his role will increase, and you're just going to see, I think I talked, it was either last week or the week before, with the Terry McLaurin thing. I think you're just going to see that. They're going to get enough playing time, and they're going to put up numbers. I don't think they care as much from things I've seen them post on social media and people I've talked to. I don't think they care about going out there and winning the Biletnikoff Award. They want to be in the national championship conversation and come out as true, polished prospects. And the best chance you get that right now is with Brian Hartline, because he's proven it with the wide receivers he's put into the NFL.
Well, he's not put any first or second, not any first round wide receivers into the NFL. Austin, it's going to be a new quarterback next year. I have to expect that there's going to be fewer passes, less passing volume. You've got Travion Henderson coming in, who's going to be a part of the receiving game. Is this going to work out for all of these wide receivers? I don't think that this is an Alabama situation where you're going to have, 3 receivers over 1,000 yards. What do you think? Is it going to work out for all of these Ohio State wide receivers?
It's just such a big ask to, if you're saying that Fleming, for instance, is going to be okay with a rotational role through his sophomore year as the number 1 wide receiver in his recruiting class, that's a really big ask. I think it's the same for Egbuka, who's the number 1 wide receiver in his class. To ask these kids to sit or to rotate for that long, especially because I'm not sure I see Ohio State being in the national championship conversation next year. If whoever ends up being their quarterback would have to have a really good first year. We don't see a lot of first-year young first-year quarterbacks take a team to the national championship. It's pretty rare. I mean, Tua won one, but he came in the second half of that game. Trevor Lawrence is really the only one I can think of in the past, decade. So if you're relying on a Trevor Lawrence rise for a CJ Stroud or a Kyle McCord or whoever, I don't know if I see that. So assuming no national championship and having to rotate for 2 years, I just don't see a lot of guys being that interested in that. And there are a lot of top programs out there that don't have a lot of wide receivers right now. The nature of all these guys going to Bama and Ohio State and, going to 4 different schools, Georgia, Clemson, you could transfer to, a Florida State or a Texas or one of these schools. Texas A&M doesn't have that much there right now. Michigan doesn't have that much there right now. There are big programs that don't really have that many wide receivers. You got to figure are enticing to kids like that.
All right. Colin, coming back to you. Any other 2021 breakouts that you wanted to mention before we go into the real divisive issue on this show?
Let's get into that divisive issue. I've been excited.
Let's get into the divisive issue. And that, of course, is Zach Wilson versus Justin Fields. I want to know your in a vacuum. Give me your take on Zach Wilson, meteoric rise, his true junior season. You don't have to make a comparison at all. Just give me your thoughts on on Zach Wilson and what you think his NFL upside is. Do you think that this season was a mirage? Give me your thoughts on Zach Wilson.
So I don't think it's a mirage at all. I like his pro prospects there. I think he's going to end up grading out for me pretty much right on par with Joe Burrow. So I think that's going to be right about where he'll end up grading up for me. He has really good mobility. He moves well in the pocket and he evades rushes really well. He could pick up some chunk yards on scrambles, can make a guy miss in the open field on occasion. But the most important thing with all that mobility is it's nice, and it's definitely something that I look for in a quarterback. But he does a really good job keeping his eyes downfield too when he scrambles. So, sometimes it is a bit of a fault. He does keep an eye downfield. He's looking at that vertical game, and he'll miss his check down at times. But I love that he keeps his eyes up when he's scrambling. He's constantly looking to make a big play downfield. But that's not the only part of his game that he has. He does go through progressions really well. He'll often hit the right read. The biggest issue he faces for me, he doesn't always make the best decisions when he's under pressure. or when he's moving around outside of the pocket. Sometimes he makes some questionable decisions. There was a throw in the Coastal Carolina game where it was a beautiful throw. It was cross body, opposite hash. It was gorgeous, and it worked in college. I don't know if that's going to necessarily work at the next level. So he's going to need to rein that in a little bit. But I think it's easier to rein something like that in than to teach that gunslinger mentality that he's kind of shown. And then he just kind of checks off all the boxes that you want to see for as far as arm strength, NFL caliber arm for sure. He's got a nice fastball too. It shows good accuracy overall. So he needs to improve the accuracy a little bit. Which I think that issue kind of comes from his throwing, his arm angle when he throws. It comes in a little bit low. I don't know if I would change that at all because I think he's, just a great prospect overall. But it's just something that I kind of noted when I was watching him. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Zach Wilson. Yeah, he's going to be my QB 3 this year, but on par with Burrow, I think.
Well, so I have an issue with, I think the Devy community has been watching the Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence competition since they were in high school. And I think that, a lot of people have a problem putting Zach Wilson over Justin Fields. How far, but some people have. Blue check marks have. Dane Brugler of The Athletic has. I think Mel Kiper has had Zach Wilson going number 2 overall. How far, you said you have him number 3. How far is Zach Wilson from Justin Fields as a prospect?
He's not that far for me. It is pretty close. But I think Fields just has an astronomical ceiling, especially when it comes to the fantasy side of the game. His legs are going to give him a massive advantage as a fantasy quarterback. But overall, he's got top-notch tools, Fields. He has a cannon of an arm. He's got the athleticism that you look for. You can design run plays for him. He's that type of a runner. He flashes really good accuracy at times. It is a little bit inconsistent. He does miss some throws that he needs to hit. And I do have a little bit of a concern with him, because most of his throws are either his first read or this check down. He doesn't hit a lot of those middle reads. And he goes through the progressions, but it's either first or check down. And Ohio State does have a ton of skill position players there and that great O-line. So he has had a lot of weapons, and it's been a very safe environment for him. So I'll be interested to see how he does moving into the pros. I think he's going to need a little bit more work overall than people are necessarily giving him credit for. But his ceiling's just higher for Wilson. So that's what gives the biggest nod for me there.
Okay. Would you be surprised if the Jets took Wilson number 2 overall?
I would actually be a little bit surprised by that just because I don't necessarily think that they're going to take a quarterback. I think that they're probably going to stick with Darnold. But I do think that there's a good chance that Zach Wilson could go ahead of Fields in the draft. I think that's definitely a possibility for sure.
Who is more landing spot dependent of the two? Because I think this is actually like a really good debate because I do think both of them need a little bit of help. I don't think they're quite the Trevor Lawrence where I think any system, any situation, they can kind of morph themselves into whatever that team needs. Do you think that Wilson needs more support than Fields early on, or vice versa, or equals the cop-out answer? So don't say equal.
Well, if you're going to take equal off the table, I mean, I'm a cop-out kind of answer kind of guy. No, I do think that Zach Wilson needs a little bit more work than Fields. Like I said, Fields definitely needs some work. He needs some refinement for sure. But we've seen it for 2 years from him, whereas we've only seen this for 1 year from Zach Wilson against subpar competition. It's pretty. He had some decent defenses there that he played, but overall, I think that I still have questions about Zach Wilson being able to do it at an elite level. Now, not questions enough that I'm willing to drop him too far, but I think Wilson is more landing to spot dependent because we haven't seen it from him as much.
I'm always having a good hair day, Austin. But It's definitely nice to have one, huh?
Wow, don't shout my
Come on,
my private messages into.
It wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't a bad
Aaron,
thing.
the DMs.
Yeah, if you guys are listening to this podcast, go watch the live show because I'm having a damn good hair day.
Still got a lot of people watching. Surprisingly,
and I don't get to leave the apartment to work anymore, so nobody got to enjoy this. So it was just me at home.
Hey, same here. I actually did my hair for the first time in I don't even know how long, and I did it all because I was on the live show tonight. So you're welcome, guys.
by the way,
get
you're
that.
getting killed in the David Bell Juju poll right now.
I am.
Yeah, it's not even close. Last I looked, it was like 80 to 20% David Bell. Yeah.
I don't get that. I think people all season were saying like, they'd rather have Deontay and Claypool than Juju, I think that's
Claypool. I'd rather have Deontay.
That's totally wrong in my opinion. I think Juju's superior to all those receivers. As a Steelers fan, and it makes me it just kills me because Juju's leaving this offseason. Like there's zero chance he comes back, but
so it's 70 to 30 now.
Okay. All right. I have to start getting my paid my paid shills out there to vote. But are there any other ones that stand out to you right now? Are you looking at the results?
Yeah, so let's see. Going through them, I mean, Godwin right now is 100% over Pickens. Thomas 88% over Pickens. Wilson 63 over Tua. DeAndre and Jonathan Taylor both 78% over Bijan. This one surprised me. I was actually going to go the opposite of Colin. Kelsey 80% over Gilbert. Maybe that's just because people don't really know. I would have gone Gilbert just because I think what he's going to do on the college. I don't know if he'll put up like Pitt's numbers at Florida, but I think he could be close. And what we talked about, obviously getting that college production for 2 years and then getting a young stud tight end, especially in a tight end premium, I think is going to be huge for me. I still think Kelsey probably has 3 or 4 years left, but at that point, that's when Gilbert's already entering the NFL, and you're hopefully going to get that kind of production out of him moving forward. Which way would you have gone, Austin?
That's a tough. Kelsey's not that old.
I know. It's just
I know we talk all the time, especially on my other show, Colin, and I talk about like 3-year windows. Like we don't really look beyond 3 years that much, but I think I would be comfortable, or at least somewhat comfortable, saying that Kelsey probably has more than 3 years.
So 30, is he 30 or 31?
I think he's 31. So he's just over the hunt, but like I've seen stats and I keep meaning to go dig it up and I never do. But once tight ends hit like a certain amount of time in the league, they last longer than every other skill position. So I think that now, I mean, Kelsey's established. I mean, he can have like a Tony Gonzalez type career where he plays at a decent level until he's 38. And he's shown he can already do it in the NFL. So, but I do like, I guess I like Gilbert going to Florida. We didn't really talk about that at all at the show. Maybe we should talk about that now. What does everybody think about Eric Gilbert going to Florida? Matt, kick us off.
I think my biggest thing is who's going to be the quarterback. I think Gilbert's got the talent. It really didn't matter where he goes. It's just going to be, because I think in that offense, we've already seen what they were able to do with Pitts. I mean, you have a lot of people saying Gilbert's going to be even better than Pitts. So I think that they'll still figure out a way to implement him and use him in that offense.
Yeah. Felix, do you have any thoughts on it, or are you sitting this one out?
No, I think that there's a chance that we haven't seen the best quarterbacks yet at Florida, with Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson. I mean, I thought that they looked decent, even though they were blown out against Oklahoma, but they got a chance to play. Anthony Richardson might end up playing wide receiver there, but I like him, and I like what Emory. Is it Emory Jones? Is it Emory? Yeah, Emory Jones. Yeah, I liked how at least what he looked getting his feet. I mean, he's played a little bit up until this point. And so, Florida might be getting ready to reload, especially adding somebody like Gilbert. Both Jones and Richardson offer more than Trask did in the running game. So I think that's something that's attractive. And, Florida's going to be a fun team to watch again next year because of what they're because of the new quarterbacks and because Eric Gilbert is there. So,
yeah, very different offensive setup next year. I think this is going to be interesting. Has Mullen run a system where he's had a majority rushing quarterback. I've not gone through. I mean, I know he was at Mississippi State before this, and Dak was not much of a runner at Mississippi State, was he? Like, they used him in the pocket a lot more. So I don't know if he has a lot of experience running an offense where that's what his quarterbacks are best at. So that is like an intriguing situation for me next year. Colin, what do you think about? I mean, we talked a little bit about Gilbert there today on our show, but just the quarterback situation there and kind of what you expect from him.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we mentioned it a little bit on our most recent Campus Life show, but I think the biggest question there for the offense overall is, like you guys were saying, the quarterback situation. But say what you want about Dan Mullen. Austin, I know your thoughts on him. You know, he's kind of an asshole overall. He's pretty clueless, but the guy knows how to develop quarterbacks. So I think that he can get the most out of Emory Jones. And I think that he's going to turn him into, at least he's going to be able to scheme something up to make him at least a productive passer, maybe not a great passer, maybe not a great NFL prospect, but I think he's going to get a lot out of him. And I think that Gilbert is going to be pretty much the focal point of the wide receivers there next year. I mean, I like Jacob Copeland, so he's still going to be there. Shorter's still going to be there, who I'm lukewarm on. He was a former Penn State guy. So, I kind of have a soft spot for me there, but he didn't really do anything at Penn State. He didn't really do anything at Florida last year. So I think that it's going to be the Eric Gilbert show for the most part. So I like this situation for him.
Shorter is one of those guys that people say, man, if I was 6'5" and built like that, I would, X, Y, and Z. He's a real, I mean, I don't want to call him a disappointment, but given his frame and his athleticism, I think you have to say that he is. And I don't really understand why he hasn't been more productive than he has been already. So.
All right, so next was Kyle Pitts is winning 92% over TJ Hawkinson, which is surprising to me. I honestly thought that'd be closer. Like, I love Pitts, but I mean, Hawkinson's my tight end 3 for Dynasty. Would you guys all go Pitts easily over Hawkinson or no?
Not easily. I don't have that many strong thoughts either way about that, but Hawkinson's a guy that has already done it. And he has this crazy former tight end coach. It's now his head coach. So I got to think they and no receivers, really. I mean, we have yet to see what they're going to do with that. So I don't know. I like that situation. He doesn't quite have the upside, but quite frankly, we've seen, like, Eric Ebron had hype. Like, I don't know if he had quite the Kyle Pitts hype, but like, we've seen these guys come into the league before and like not acclimate at all. So I think I'd be more comfortable taking Hawkinson.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there with Hawkinson for sure. And I mean, Hawkinson is my tight end 3 right now on the dynasty side. And I think him adding Goff actually helps too, because Goff's going to kind of check things down a little bit more. It's not going to be as vertical of a passer as Stafford was, which I think that's going to favor the tight end and the running back in Swift. But all that being said, I think Pitts is a top tier tight end prospect. I mean, he hits all the metrics that you want for a tight end from production standpoint. He's a very good athlete. He's a proven threat as a receiver. He runs really nice routes too. He's got strong hands and excellent ball skills. So, give me the guy who's going to project to be the dominant receiving threat as a tight end early in his career. Because I think Pitts has a Travis Kelce type ceiling if you put him in the right situation. And you mentioned Eric Ebron. I think that's kind of his floor in the worst situation. And Eric Ebron's fine and is this tight end streamer. So, even if he busts, air quotes here, I think Pitts is still going to be a useful player. And the biggest thing with tight end is I want somebody who's going to be a difference maker. I don't want somebody who's going to be replacement level. And this past year, the tight end 8 and the tight end 16 were separated by 9 points. So, give me the guy I think is going to be an absolute difference maker at the position.
How do you feel about the tight? Well, I mean, Hawkinson, you're a Lions fan, Felix. I mean, what?
Yeah, but I'm taking Pitts in that one.
Yeah,
I'm taking Pitts in that one because, I mean, I've heard this before that Kyle Pitts comp might just be Calvin Johnson, and that could be the case. It's funny watching JT O'Sullivan's cut-ups of Kyle Trask from last year. He kept saying that guy's going to be a player. That guy, I mean, he's a quarterback, but he kept saying that guy's going to be a player. That guy's going to be a player. I can't think of Kyle Pitts' number off the top of my head. Is he 81?
84?
84? He wouldn't even say his name. He just say 84 is going to be a player. 84 is going to be a player. Yeah, I mean, I think that Kyle Pitts' value is so ridiculously high that I could always, get TJ Hawkinson probably plus something else. And then there's a chance that Kyle Pitts actually hits. I don't think he hits in his first year, but he's going to be a young player, a young athletic player. And just hopefully he goes to an offense where someone's not going to try to, use him like some sort of inline blocking tight end. I don't know. I don't understand why we haven't seen, speaking of the last time we saw we've seen a couple of tight ends who were this athletic. I mean, not as athletic as Kyle Pitts, but I mean, that class with Evan Ingram and David Njoku and OJ Howard, I mean, none of those guys are options that you want to have. And they were all, really athletic players, especially Ingram, who ran a faster 40 time than Odell Beckham. I mean, and he hasn't – I don't know that you're excited to start Evan Ingram on any of your fantasy teams. And Evan Ingram was in the NFC Pro Bowl for tight end. So was TJ Hawkinson. So yeah, give me Kyle Pitts pretty easily. Tight end is not a position I prioritize, but if I am going to prioritize over these two, give me the one with the higher ceiling and the higher value right now. So, which is Kyle Pitts.
Here's another fun one. We were just kind of going through Felix and looking at some of these polls that are up so far, and the Daniels one versus Lamar Jackson was just so inflammatory to me. Just such an inflammatory question to even like JT Daniels has done very little up to this point. Lamar Jackson is an MVP. It's not the most lopsided result right now, though. That actually blows my mind.
Yeah,
it's like 10% to 90%, but there's a couple that are more lopsided than that.
That is so crazy to me. What is the one that's lopsided is Dobbins and Spiller, at least the last time I saw.
Which is bizarre to me. So it's not like I voted Dobbins. I like Dobbins. I think situationally he's set, but I think people are sleeping on Spiller, man. I think we're going to be talking next year. Spiller and Hall are going to be a lot closer than we're talking about right now. Well, maybe not, because Hall has that whole backfield to himself, and Spiller has a lot of other guys there. I mean, LJ Johnson just committed there today, and they have Achane and Aeneas Smith. So maybe Spiller doesn't quite get as many touches, but I just think Spiller's a little bit bigger. I see a ton of Joe Mixon and Isaiah Spiller. And Joe Mixon's a guy that I like, and if not for circumstances, I think would be viewed quite a bit higher. Do you guys have a comp for Breece Hall? Because I don't have a comp for Breece Hall. I think that's a difficult one for me to I'm a little less certain about projecting him because I just don't see another running back when I watch him play.
I have a comp for Breece Hall, but I'm not going to get in trouble here. So I'm going to save that one until it's until I'm really certain on that one. I don't want to start any fires again.
Matt, who's your Breece Hall comp? Because I know you're the Breece Hall guy here.
I don't like doing comps. Remember, we talked about this. I'm horrible at it.
I just don't think that there's that big of a difference between Hall and Sincere McCormick and Isaiah Spiller. And I mean, those three, we talked about this on the show. I think if you got the 101 next year and you were deciding between Breece Hall and, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great that you just lost that whole season and you're getting, Breece Hall to build your dynasty team around.
It's not.
You can say again.
I said it's not a decision. It's Breece Hall. There's not what are you talking about?
I'm not arguing. I'm not necessarily arguing with that. I'm just saying that, his ceiling compared to at least the 2020 running back class and even this running back class. I mean, I think you would take all of the 5 2020 running backs. I think that I would take Etienne, Williams, and Harris over him in this class. So
Oh yeah, Javonte versus Breece Hall, Matt.
Breece Hall.
Oh,
I'd have for me right now. If I was ranking those guys, it'd probably be Harris, Hall, Javonte, Etienne for me right now. I love Breece Hall. I think he's but I know my evaluation on running backs is different than Felix. I don't care about the long speed as much as he does. It goes to I forgot who. I think Alfred posted something the other day about Kevin Harris, and Brad from Devy Watch said something about it too. Like long speed doesn't matter to me. If you're consistently eating up yards every time you get the ball, you're going to be a productive running back in the NFL. You'll get your touchdowns. I don't need him to score a 70-yard touchdown every time he touches the ball. It just doesn't matter to me. So.
okay.
And my comp for Breece Hall, now that I'm thinking about it, don't hate too much because I'm not 100% sure. I think it's pretty accurate. I'm going to go with Jim Brown. I just think, they're right there on that. I'm just kidding.
All right. You guys said I could drive. I need muting power if I'm going to drive. What were you saying, Felix?
Go ahead, Austin. I was going to say, you mentioned Jim Brown. At the time of his game, Jim Brown was like the biggest, strongest, fastest dude playing football. And I like big, fast, strong dudes playing football. And Breece Hall is none of those things. And I guess the guy who most fits the profile of what I like, either be used in the passing game, very well developed in the passing game, or be an elite size adjusted athlete. I think that's Isaiah Spiller, the most likely to be Isaiah Spiller, not necessarily Breece Hall. My comp was for him was going to be a rich man's Devin Singletary. That was going to be my comp for him. So,
oof.
Yeah. Don't tell him what he said.
No, we're talking. I know we're talking about Isaiah Spiller because Devin Singletary can't hold Breece Hall's jock strap, so I don't know what you're talking about.
All right.
That's fair. So the other pool.
Man, this next couple of years of me rubbing these receipts in your face is just going to be wonderful. I cannot wait.
Well, Felix has already said we're getting to at least 50 shows, so there'll be plenty of time for that.
It'll be good for the show. Go ahead. That's fine. It'll be good for the show. Well, how many receiving yards is Kyle Pitts going to have? Like 1,200?
1,200. I'm pretty sure that's what I settled on. So.
It's going to be damn near a wide receiver one as a rookie.
Let's go.
Rookie tight end. Well, we'll see.
The other poll here that's interesting to me is this one that we put up. I put up a 4-parter. And because on the show sheet, we had like DeMoss or Jarrett or Cooper Kupp or Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very intriguing question because I think those are 4 players that the value is all over the place on the 4 of them. And it looks like right now, about an hour into them being up, Raheem Jarrett is leading that group at about 45%. And then Cooper Kupp is second at 27%. And then Gallup at 15 and DeMoss at 12. I thought so. I actually really agree with that order. I thought DeMoss would be a lot higher. Is the shine starting to come off of him?
I think it's not what's it called? He's just in the background. You haven't heard from him. Like people who pay attention are still trying to figure out why he hasn't played. So I actually would have gone Jarrett DeMoss. I voted for Jarrett, but I think I'd still take DeMoss over Kupp and Gallup just based on upside alone. I think Kupp's upside is limited with Stafford there now. I think Robert Woods is actually the play for Stafford more than Kupp. And I like Gallup, but you don't know where he's going to go. I don't think he's going to be in Dallas. So I still like DeMoss and his upside.
Yeah, I'm absolutely there with you with Kupp. I'm not all out on Kupp, but I am definitely concerned without his buddy Goff there that he's going to take a nosedive here. So I would have it pretty much the same way that you would there. I'd probably put Gallup over DeMoss just because I think Gallup's going to be a free agent here. He's going to go somewhere where he can hopefully get showcased a little bit more. And DeMoss was pretty raw as a wide receiver overall coming out. So I think that I would put Gallup over DeMoss, but that one's definitely close. But yeah, I would probably put Kupp last on that list, to be honest with you, actually.
Damon Demas, let's do this. Transfer to Wisconsin. You can team up with Graham Mertz. You can stretch the defense. You haven't played football in in 2 years now. By the time we get to next year, that'll be your first in-game action. And almost in 3 years. Come on, Demond Demas. Let's go to Wisconsin. Go Badgers. I mean, that was the freakiest athlete. Probably the only reason that he didn't increase his profile as a senior is because he didn't play his senior year. But he's the guy with the 40-inch vertical or whatever it is and the sub 4.5 40. I mean, man, can we get this dude on the field somewhere? Transfer to Wisconsin. It's surprising to me that Jarrett is up there, especially when you consider that Matthew Stafford is in LA now, and Matthew Stafford can raise the tide for all ships. I mean, he put together. That was gonna be a lie. I was gonna say Mike Fury and Roy Williams. He did not play with those two, but he's had 1,000-yard seasons with Golden Tate and Calvin Johnson, and very close to that. Nate Burleson has had good seasons, and so I think that he's going to make Cooper Kupp and Michael Gallup very productive. I don't know. I don't know about Rakeem. I still like Demas. I still really like Demas. I mean, I was tweeting. There would be you would look on Twitter, and there would be my tweet about Demond Demas, please transfer to whatever school, and then the next tweet would be Demond Demas saying, "I'm not transferring anywhere." Not that he would at me, but if you just typed in his name, that would be the order of tweets. Michael Gallup. Why did I think that was Robert Woods there? I thought that was Robert Woods.
Okay. We knew who you meant.
Yeah.
All right. I will take Kupp. I like Michael Gallup too. This is hard. Michael Gallup needs a new team though. So I'm going to take Jared Demas because if this in the C2C context, I like taking the players that I love. So I'm going to take Jared Demas, Kupp, Gallup in that order. But I actually like all of these players. I like Kupp the least. I like Michael Gallup, and I like the two college receivers. So
it's hard for me to buy into Demas or Demas or however you say it when his best highlights are not on a football field. It's him jumping over 3 dudes and dunking on the goalpost at a camp or all the stuff you see of him is not him on a football field. So I don't know. I think I had him in my top 5 last year just because of how athletic he was as coming out of high school. But at this point, not playing for 2 years, couldn't get on the field last year for whatever reason, and I don't think that Jimbo has a reputation for not playing freshmen. At least I don't remember that being the case. I mean, he won at Florida State. I thought he played a lot of freshmen.
When he played Spiller some last year too as a freshman.
Yeah. So, and it's not like they're stacked at wide receiver at Texas A&M either. I mean, they got Chase Lane, and after Osborne dropped out, it's just not that a stacked wide receiver room. I don't know. I think I'm mostly out on Demas. I don't have him anywhere because he was just going way too early for me last year. But
yeah, that's my problem with Demas too. Is he was just going too early for where I had him. I had him just outside my top 5, so I don't have Demas anywhere either. I like him because he's got all the tools that you look for, but I'm a little concerned with him not getting on the field at all, and just how much has he developed technically? Because that was my biggest question there. And if he's not getting on the field, is he developing that more? In practice, you're not seeing it in the games, so I'm a little bit concerned with Demas.
Yeah. Was that the second show for tonight, guys? We wrap it up at this point, I think.
Yeah, we can. Well, I got to ask you, did you answer the Breece Hall or Josh Jacobs question since they're the same player? I don't know if you preferred one or the other.
I did.
You did? Okay.
I did. I picked Hall over Jacobs. Very close, though. Very close. I had to separate him.
Yeah. That's probably the best comp for him, really, is Josh Jacobs. So
yes, it is, in my opinion.
It's not.
Cool. Well, I think that's the show, the second show for tonight, guys. When are we airing this one? When are we releasing it?
I'm probably not going to put these up till tomorrow because I've got stuff I've got to still do before I go to bed. But I'll probably do This one, I'll do the first episode first, and then I'll put up the second one on like Friday. So there's a little bit of a breaker. I can put them both up tomorrow. It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys want to do.
No, I can only listen to myself talk so much out of a day. So whatever you want to choose to put up is good with me. Well, that's the show for tonight, guys. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. I've always wanted to say that. Maybe we'll get you on next week. Sorry we had to bump you. Until then, for Felix Sharp, for Matt Bruning, for Colin Decker, this is Austin Nace, and this is Devy Debate.